Alright, let's talk about one of the coolest comebacks in gaming history. You've been there before, when you pop in a game and within seconds, you can tell it's just something special. For me, and maybe you too, that game was Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. Now, I'm not just here to tell you it's a classic, you already know that. What I want to dig into is why this game, a platformer about a gorilla chasing stolen bananas, hit so hard back in 1994, and more importantly, why it still absolutely rules today. So stick around, because we're going to look at the tech that blew minds back then, the level design that still feels amazing, and I'll even share one thing that almost nobody got right when they tried to port it later. But first, we need to rewind a bit, because to understand why Donkey Kong Country was such a big deal, you have to look at what Donkey Kong had been up to before this, or more accurately, what he hadn't been up to. See, Donkey Kong was basically in hibernation. After the arcade classic, the big guy was missing in action for over a decade. Nintendo's mascot was Mario. Sega had Sonic, and DK was, well, he was a relic. A fondly remembered one, but a relic. Then, a British studio called Rare, who had been making a name for themselves on the NES, got their hands on some serious Silicon Graphics workstations. You know, the same kind used to make the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park. They were experimenting with new 3D models, and Nintendo, who was in a brutal console war with Sega, took notice. They gave Rare the keys to the dormant Donkey Kong franchise, and the goal? Create a showcase that could go head-to-head with anything else on the market. But here's what most people didn't realize. Nintendo was actually a little worried. They saw the early pre-rendered 3D models and thought the game looked too 3D. They were concerned it might feel unplayable, but Rare had a vision and they pushed forward. The result was a graphical style that felt like a quantum leap. Everything you see, Donkey, Diddy, every enemy, every barrel, was crafted as a 3D model first, and then rendered into 2D sprites. This gave the characters an incredible sense of weight and volume that was unmatched at the time. I remember seeing it in magazines and just not believing it would actually run on my Super Nintendo. But here's the trap a lot of games fall into. Looking great, but playing poorly. And this is where the real genius of Donkey Kong Country kicks in. Because the magic wasn't how it looked. More importantly, it was how it moved. The first thing you'd notice when you start playing is the rhythm. This isn't a floaty, dreamy platformer. It has a distinct and almost bouncy cadence. Jumping on a gremlin has a satisfying thud. Rolling into them gives you the speed boost. The levels are designed so that if you have the timing down, you can chain moves together and just flow through the stage. That's the real secret sauce. The developers were obsessed with making the game feel seamless for a skilled player. They placed obstacles and enemies so that everything could be hit on the first try if you had the reflexes. It's the kind of design that makes speedrunning feel natural, even if that term wasn't really even a thing back then. And let me show you what I mean with the star of the show, the roll move. It's such a simple idea. Press a button to tuck and roll, but it's everything. It's a weapon. It's a speed boost, and you can even jump out of it mid-air to reach hidden areas. Mastering the roll is what separates someone who just gets through the game and from someone who owns it. I rarely used it as a kid, and that was terrible. Now, I can't imagine playing without it. But of course, you're not just rolling. You've got two characters. Donkey is the powerhouse, able to kill bigger enemies with a ground pound. Diddy is faster, nimbler, honestly, the character you'll probably use more. But this tag team mechanic is brilliant. Losing one Kong isn't an instant game over. It adds this little layer of tension without being overly punishing. Okay, now with controls this good, you need levels that put them to the test. And that's where Donkey Kong Country truly earns its stripes. Because just when you think you've seen it all, it throws a new idea at you. One of the biggest marks of a great platformer is how well it can introduce new ideas without overstaying its welcome. Super Mario World is a masterclass in this, and so is Donkey Kong Country. You've got your standard jungle level, sure, but then you're blasting out of a barrel in a minecart, trying not to fall into the abyss. You're navigating a shipwreck and underwater stages with some incredible music, dodging clams that snipe pearls at you. You're swinging on vines, riding rhinos that can break through walls, and even hopping on an ostrich that can let you glide. Every level has its own personality. You get a factory level with moving platforms and toxic waste, a snow level with slippery ice and barrel cannons over bottomless pits. The gameplay twists each time. I don't remember every level name, but I absolutely remember the gimmick of each one. And hidden everywhere are the secrets. Bonus rooms tucked behind false walls, Kong letters spelling out K-O-N-G, and animal buddy tokens. Finding everything gets you a 101% completion rating, which is the game's way of showing off. And as a kid, hunting for these was half the fun. Some are brutally hidden, requiring leaps of faith or spotting subtle banana trails. But they reward the curiosity that this world inspires. But seriously, let's be real. This game is not easy. It assumes you know how to play a platformer. The screen can feel a little cramped sometimes, with DK's big sprite blocking the view, leading to some cheap hits. The later levels, especially like the Snow Barrel Blast or the factory stages, demand precision. It's the kind of challenge that makes a victory feel earned, not handed to you. And powering you through all that challenge is one of the most legendary soundtracks ever put on a cartridge. If you've ever played this game, you're probably humming the tune right now. David Wise's score is a character in itself. He built these atmospheres. The aquatic ambience of the water levels is haunting and beautiful. The tribal percussion of the jungle themes gets you pumped. The factory music is industrial, intense. Wise was working with the Super Nintendo's limited sound chip, but he treated it like an instrument. He'd write actual lyrics for each melody to get the phrasing right, even though no one would ever hear them. He mixed in environmental sounds, synth, and genres from jazz to rock to create something remarkable that really made you get the feeling of each level. And this one reason is actually the biggest reason I'll always pick the original Super Nintendo version over the later Game Boy Advance port. The GBA version added some cool content, like new mini-games and cutscenes, but the sound chip butchered the tracks. They lost their depth in the atmosphere. For a game where the music is that important, I'm sorry, that's a deal breaker for me. The Super Nintendo soundtrack, in my mind, is untouchable. And it all builds to that final showdown with King K. Rool, or King Cruel, however you say it. The music shifts. The fake-out ending gets you. It's a perfect capstone. Beating him for the first time is a core gaming memory for me. It felt like a real accomplishment. So why does Donkey Kong Country still hold up? Put the nostalgia aside, and we're talking about how its fundamentals are rock solid. The controls are tight and rewarding. The level variety keeps you engaged, the exploration for secret rewards, and the presentation, from its groundbreaking pre-rendered graphics to its perfect soundtrack, creates a world that's just so easy and fun to get lost in. And for a guy like me, and maybe like you, it's a perfect escape. It proved that a classic character could come back stronger than ever and set the standard for an entire series. What are your feelings about Donkey Kong Country? Let me know in the comments. I read every one. And if this retro throwback hit the spot, then hitting that like button is the best way to let me know. If you want more deep dives into the games that defined our childhoods, make sure you're subscribed. Next time, we might just take a look at what happened when Diddy Kong took the lead for his own quest. Alright my friends, this is the Retro Gaming Boss signing out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.